All right, so we are here with the GQ model Zaccaroni.
Hello.
This is the
Hi,
first
folks.
first photo of his calendar layout.
Mm-hmm.
All right, brother, it's all yours.
Yes. Good morning, everybody. Good morning. Here we are. We're not in Dysfunction Junction. We're making our way somewhere else, better. So I think congratulations is in order to me.
We're actually at the park where we did the swings. Remember
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
A lot
yeah,
of people love that video.
yeah. I like that. I wish that I was feeling up to swinging today. When I seen him when we were pulling in, I thought, ooh, swings. And I thought I'd like to do that again, but not feeling it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So you had a lot of good comments.
Yeah.
All good comments on the video uploaded a couple hours
Mhm.
ago.
And that's good to have, man. It's good to hear people um with their feedback and everything. I like to respond to them if I can. As many as I can do. It's impossible to respond to all of them, but it's good to let people know that you appreciate, what they're doing. Boy, this has been rough. It's been hard. We were just talking about some things, and wow, I was really thinking that maybe about rehab, and I would like to go to rehab, but I think that because of my current health situation and everything, I think they'd have a hard time taking me.
I
You
think
know,
I
I
think at like right now in the state you're in, yeah. What I think what they would want you to do is go to the hospital first,
yeah,
do that process, get some medication.
it would probably be
They'd want
months.
you to situate that first, and
Yeah,
then from there you could
yeah,
get into rehab anytime. That would be the process
yeah,
because they could only do so much. The
yeah,
nurses at the rehabs could only do so much, but I think some medication to make sure it doesn't get worse, doesn't progress.
yeah.
They just want you stable first, and then
Mhm.
that would be a great move. So
Yeah.
many positives.
No, it would, and I'm down for it. And I would have already done it probably. But the thing is, the it's going to take some time. It won't be fast. It probably would take months in the
Well,
hospital. Probably would take months.
nah, a lot sooner than that. A lot sooner than that
You
because once you
think?
get those meds in your system, it's just attacking it right there. You know.
Yeah.
But as far as like the kidneys and liver, I don't know what that process is like.
Well, I've got that ball rolling
Okay.
already. I had an appointment with my nurse practitioner yesterday at my clinic, and it's the ball's rolling on that. I need to do some more labs, and it was hard to get them yesterday, so we made another appointment for very soon to get the labs that we need, and then we can go from there.
Yeah.
You know, but
One person said that she saw some yellowing on your skin.
yeah,
I
and
forgot
that's
what
that's true.
is that.
Jaundice.
Is that what that is?
Yeah, it's
Okay.
jaundice. It's from liver failure,
Okay.
and
So you got that under wraps.
yeah,
Got that
yeah.
process started.
That's. I mean, you can't live without a liver. You have to have it. So
So I'm thinking the guy interviewed he went septic. He stayed in the hospital for a week. They took care of him. They gave him all the appropriate meds. They gave him, he
Vanco.
said, morphine
Yeah.
just to stop the pain, and then they gave him stuff for the cellulitis on his legs.
How bad was his condition?
I didn't see it. Every time I interviewed him, he always had his legs wrapped, um,
Yeah.
but it got severe to where he had to call his dad, and where he had to reach out, and he never did that. You know what I mean?
Yeah, yeah. If there was somebody to do that too, I probably would have already as well. It's horrendous. It is horrendous. This stuff. I don't know if everybody knows, but the culprit is the blues, the blue pills. The has hit America by storm. Um, and I found out from my nurse practitioner yesterday that it's xylazine, it's called, and it's a horse tranquilizer. When they had a shortage of fentanyl, or they wanted to, for some reason, they didn't want to use fentanyl anymore, and probably for availability, I'm thinking, or for all the hating that was on it, and everything from whole countries, banning it and everything. They switched to the xylazine. It's a horse tranquilizer. That's what they put in them, and it eats your skin literally. It causes some real bad things going on, man. Real bad.
Definitely not meant for humans.
Yeah, and I mean, it's hard for me to sit right in the muck of everything and change. You know, somebody had commented on the hygiene is a factor, serious in recovery and necessary, and I understand that, and I don't, you know, stay like this on purpose. I've It's very difficult for me to get even somewhere to wash up or anything. Um, I don't have people in my corner like that that welcome me in their home. You can see why. I understand as well. You know, and people are afraid of it. People are afraid of infection. They're afraid of things like this. Not to mention they're afraid of people coming off drugs. And you can't blame them. You were stating earlier that when we were talking that they are unpredictable, and I agree. I agree. It's very difficult for me to do this from where I'm at, and I'm doing it. You know, I will say on a very positive note that I am really doing a good job overcoming this. Um, I'm doing a lot better
Baby
than I
steps,
could.
like you said.
Yeah,
Everyone's road's different.
yeah, they
You know,
are.
and like I said before, if you get knocked down, just get back up. And you've been going to the clinic every day, which is awesome, dude.
Yeah.
Are you getting in the way of yourself as far as like going to the hospital to get meds on your legs and then to like a rehab? Like, what's preventing you from that? Because that's what
Well, the
everybody.
the fact that the last time I went to the hospital, they rejected me,
Mhm.
turned me away, and they told me some things that just kind of turned me off from it. You
Have
know?
you been there before prior to that?
Yeah,
Okay. So that's
yeah,
probably what they're saying. Like, we
yeah. Well,
told
there are
you
a
what to
bunch of
do.
times you have to realize that my condition has been extensive and
Yeah.
long going. Um, it's not the first time they've seen me or met me
What's
or
stopping
tried to
you?
deal with it.
What's stopping you from going to a different hospital
Um,
and then to a rehab?
just the uh, pure fact that they treated me so badly and
Mm.
everything that I'm stubborn and ornery and I don't want to give in to them, and I don't want to go beg them
Mm.
to help me, which is pretty much what you have to do.
Yeah.
You have to make a commitment to them, that you're gonna follow through and all that, and it's a big commitment.
Got to show them you
It
want
really is.
the help.
It's real big. It's easier said than done for sure. A lot easier said than done. Talking about it's one thing, but doing it's another.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of pain and everything involved in this.
So
It's,
mainly, you were turned off at one place, and that's kind of preventing you from going to a different hospital. Is that what you're saying?
yeah.
Like a different.
Well, I've had negative results at a few hospitals,
Yeah.
but not as bad as that one.
So like
That
they
was
say, like in the program and like in the room and stuff, fourth step, like what was your part in that situation? Like out of all that negativity, did you have a part in that?
yeah.
Yeah.
I did. I did. I was probably a little unruly.
Yeah.
A little bitter.
Because
Uh,
it's always
bel-
good to. That's
bel-
one thing that rehab taught me, and doing the steps is what was my part in those situations. Like any
Yeah.
resentment I had, what was my part in that?
Yeah,
I was like,
exactly.
okay, I was
And
maybe an
and
asshole.
and that plays a big part in
You know.
everything.
Hmm.
It really does. We if we can't realize our place in things and what we're causing to happen, we can't fix them. You know, so admittance and acceptance is a big thing. You know, just admitting your you failed and you made a big mistake and you have to have help to come out of it is hard.
Yeah.
You know.
So for the viewers, like it might not be today or this week that he does the hospital thing or the rehab thing. Could be next week. Could be tomorrow. So he's going through his process. He's taking the reins in his hands and baby steps. So we'll see how that situation goes.
Mm.
Um, let's see what else. So yeah, like a lot of good comments on the video. Did you want to go into answering that question, or do you have
Yeah,
anything else to
yeah.
say?
People, people are glad, Daniel, that you're reaching out and helping.
Yeah.
And the feedback that I've had from people that I just run into, you know, tell me, "Wow, that guy's great. He's awesome. And I agree. I tell him he is. Without you, Daniel, um, my effort wouldn't even be there. I'd probably be going full speed ahead into the void.
Yeah.
You know, right into the
Till the
void.
wheels fall off, huh?
Yeah, and it's easy for us to do that, especially when we can get numb enough to do it.
Hmm.
You know, it's easy to stay on that path and just lose track of everything. Lose track of everything you want to do, you're trying to do, you need to do. That's it's real simple to lose the will to do this and the faith to do this. You know.
I just saw a comment. I already know this, but I already know this answer. Somebody asked if you're a Sagittarius.
I sure am.
I wonder how they knew. They probably just sensed it.
You,
You know?
you know what? My ex could tell somebody what they were after five
Yeah,
minutes.
that's
You
amazing.
know, and they asked if I was a Sagittarius, huh?
Yeah.
Well, yes, I am, and very proud to be. You
They asked
know,
if you're a Sagittarius or something else, but
I think that that's a great sign.
they were spot
I
on.
think a lot of great people have been Sagittarius.
What are your strengths as a person? Like, what are your strengths? I really don't
Wow.
know the strengths of a Sagittarius because there's like
Um,
positive traits and negative traits.
yeah, there is, and I'm not really that hip on them.
Mm.
I mean, I know some about it, and and I know I'm glad to be one.
Mm.
But and I know there's some others that I wouldn't want to be.
Yeah, yeah. There's always a
You
positive
know,
and negative. I'm
yeah,
Virgo,
yeah,
so we're like self-critical, stubborn, fussy. I'm all
hmm,
that.
yeah.
Um, yeah, but
Well,
that's cool how she kind of
yeah,
spotted
that
it
that
out
is
though.
cool. That is cool. She just knew it.
Yep.
Sometimes you just know things.
Yep.
Um, I let me think here. Uh, Sagittarius. Wow. Um,
I can look it up and put it on the video and
yeah.
share it with you on the next one.
Yeah,
See if
that's
you
what we'll
agree.
do because I don't know enough about it to know
Yeah.
what I'm talking about, so I don't want to put it out there.
So one question that went unanswered in the last video because it had to take some thought, for Zach. It's a serious question, and I think he said it has to take serious thought. So that question was, what would you tell your younger self, or what would you say to your younger self if you had the opportunity?
After thinking about this, the thing that comes to mind was listen to your dad. You should listen to your father, and really listen and take in what he's saying and think about it and be serious with it. Um, every young man should listen to his dad, but when it comes to some things, the advice is golden. And I should have been tighter with my family. I should have listened more to them, my father,
What were
and
some things that?
he always had my best interest at heart.
Yeah.
Always did.
What would he tell you that you wish you listened to?
Um, well, he would tell me to. I keep the first thing that comes to mind. I don't want to just say it outright because it's got a bad word in it. So,
You can say it. I could edit it out if it's crazy.
uh, beep the dumb beep.
F the dumb.
That's the dumb shit.
Okay.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah, yeah.
No, enough of it.
Yeah.
Enough is enough.
Would
My
he
dad
say
would
that?
say, enough is enough. If
Yeah.
you haven't, you know, like, you went there, you did that, you found out, and now what?
That's some real talk.
You're not finished.
Are you gonna keep doing it?
Yeah, I
Haven't
mean,
you got enough?
you found out it doesn't work for you, and you're gonna go to rock bottom and wallow around and bounce on the bottom for 5 years. Most people don't do that. That's crazy. My family, they have a real hard time accepting me and and watching me.
Hmm.
You know, they're wondering why. And my dad would say, Zach. He would say, "That's highly illogical, Zachary. Why would you do that?" He's like, my dad's like Spock.
Mm-hmm.
That's highly illogical, Zachary. Why would you entertain such an idea?
That's awesome.
You're
Yeah.
smarter than this. When I was a kid, he used to tell me, if you had a brain, you'd be dangerous. But I mean, he knows I have one, and I have a good one.
That's a compliment
And
right there.
and it's
That's a
hard.
serious compliment.
It's very
Because he
hard.
knows your worth. He knows what you're capable of.
Yeah.
Like he said, if you applied yourself in a intelligent manner, you'd be fierce,
Yeah.
unstoppable.
Yeah.
bro.
I could have been anything.
That's a great compliment.
I could have been anything, and I could have made my family proud. And they're not my real parents, but they're the parents I got, and
Yeah.
the best ones that I could have had. I thank them much for it, and I hear my dad all the time in the back of my head. This is highly illogical, Zach. Why would you do this? You're smarter than this. You're better than this. Why are you doing this? And I'm sure that I'm somewhat of an embarrassment.
What would you tell him when he would say that stuff to you?
I would just, I would cop a plea, man. I would plead no contest and say that I lost myself. I had a momentary lapse of reason. A long moment. I was misled.
Do you remember what age you were when he would say stuff like that?
Yeah, yeah, all my life
All,
he would
yeah.
say, yeah, he would say,
How old
You know-
were you when you got adopted?
3.
Okay. So that's all you knew, basically, right?
Yeah,
That's all you know?
yeah.
That's
I
your
was
family
3,
right there.
and my family was ripped apart by my mother and a lot of things. I always swore that my kids would never have to go through or put up with any of what I did, and they have. And it's like, I can't believe that I did follow in my mom's footsteps a lot of the ways. And I don't think it's hereditary. I think we see what we see, and we grow to know what we know, and we come to be complacent, with it. Um, we just follow in the footsteps. Um, I don't know. I love my mom, and I'm proud of her in a lot of ways, but in some ways she made some bad mistakes, and then I turned around and followed and made the same ones. Um, I don't know. I just know that I should have been listening to my dad, and when I needed to talk to somebody and I needed advice, I should have been calling him. you know, and I should have been listening to what he says because he's a smart man. He's one of the smartest men I've ever met, you know, and I have a deep respect for him. He always had good advice for me, and if it was always golden advice, and I should have been taking it.
If they were to stumble across your videos, how do you think they'd react, or what would they say?
They would freak out.
Really?
They
Yeah, I
would
haven't shared it
freak
with them.
out. They don't know to what extent I've taken things, you know, and that's one of the things that I've always been great at doing is, you know, taking something to the limit, you know, all the way, and even past the limit, you know, and it's unfortunate that I have to learn everything the hard way, you know, but I do, and it's just the way that I am, I guess.
I was watching our first interview the other day. I was like, Dad, I remember that day. I
Yeah.
was with my cousin. He's like, let me introduce you to somebody. I met you. You were under a stairwell and you were smoking something,
Oh yeah.
and you had this like, who is this guy? Like, why are they here? You know, this like caught in the action
Yeah.
type of look.
Yeah.
And then we got talking. And yep, that was a good video.
Yeah, that was a while ago,
Yep.
man.
About a year or so ago.
Years, yeah, it was years ago, wasn't it?
Probably about a year ago. Well, I don't even know. Maybe over a year ago, somewhere around there.
Yeah,
I think we did 25 or 26 videos already.
yeah. Well, meeting you has been a bonus in my life and a plus. And you know, certain people make me want to care, and you're one of them, and my dad's one of them. And you know, there's a lot of things that happen out here that makes you not want to be involved in any way, shape, or form, or care about any of it, care about anything. It's easy to get to where you don't care with the drugs they have out. You know, it's easy to lose yourself. You know,
Your comeback would shock the world, dog.
it would.
It
It would. You know, I could be a world-renowned drug
It would be
counselor.
huge.
You know, world-renowned
Yeah.
like Dr. Phil, but world-renowned, you know, Dr. Z.
Yeah, Doctor. Yeah,
Dr. Z, you know.
Dr. D.
Ask Dr. Z.
Who's Dr. Z? Oh, Dr. Zach. Yeah, I
Yeah.
got you. I'm slow. Um,
Yeah. But I think that uh, I think I could have, you know, would have, could have, should have, didn't, you know.
so ultimately,
I
you
always
wish you would listen to your dad. And is there any other things that you would tell yourself if you were younger, or is that like the
Um,
main one you could think of?
yeah, there's a lot of things that I would change. I should have been more family oriented,
Mhm.
you know, more. I should know my kids, and I really did try to, and I believe it. I feel as it was taken from me. I do. And then one of the people that took it from me was me, you know, and that's a hard one to swallow.
Do you think
But
if you went? I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I'm coming more alive, and I'm finding myself,
Yeah.
you know, each day.
It seems like you're more open nowadays to help. You know,
Yeah.
seems like more open.
There was a time where it was like pulling teeth.
Yeah.
You know, it was like pulling teeth, and I just
Does it make you feel good that you went to the clinic and
yeah, it
that you got
does.
these appointments and
It
stuff?
does. You know, and it shows that I do care.
Mhm.
It shows that I really do care, and I'm willing
Yeah.
to go through. You should see what I go through to get to that clinic with the road construction and everything
Oh yeah.
in my wheelchair and the mud
It's like off
and all
road.
that. Oh yeah, you know, off road in a wheelchair ain't nothing like it.
The main quote of my channel, like the main message of my entire channel, one thing I wish I listened to and that I did is I wish I gave myself a chance. You know,
Yeah.
like when I was younger, like when I was using. I just wish I gave myself a chance to get help sooner.
Hmm.
You know.
You know, and a lot of times, by the time you find help and everything, you find that you wish you would have done it a lot sooner, and it would have.
Yeah.
It was easier
Because
than
it
you
feels
thought.
so good.
You know, it was easier than you thought it was going to be. In my
Yeah.
case, it's not easier. It is harder. and it is harder than it should be, and it's harder than I want it to be for real.
It's harder when you prefer the streets because it's a hassle. I gotta leave here. I gotta.
See, but I don't prefer the streets. It's where I'm at.
Yeah.
You know, I'm simply dealing the cards I was dealt,
Mm.
and people don't understand that this isn't totally by choice. Um, I don't choose not to have a place to clean up.
Mm.
I don't choose. It's a very long process for me to even find somewhere to take a shower or anything,
Yeah.
and sometimes it takes days. Literally. And with my current pain issues and everything, people see me all busted up and broke down. So they say,
Mm.
"Damn, what's up with him?" People are scared. It scares people. People are afraid of infection. They're afraid of disease. They're afraid of sickness.
Is that contagious? Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
well, hell yeah, it is.
Yeah. They're.
You know, it's I call it dumbassness. It's
Yeah.
contagious. Very contagious. And it rubs off. I already had a good deal of it in me, so it wasn't
I was
hard to
saying,
get it and run with it.
Yeah.
But I did.
What I meant by preferring the streets is like going to the clinic, doing these blood tests and all that is harder when you're choosing the streets
Yes.
versus going to the hospital
Oh yes.
and doing it because
Yes.
there you would get rides. Everything would be much easier. It would come to you, or you would get rides.
Mhm.
So the hospital, I imagine you'd be there no more than a week, just to get your meds for what's going on with your legs, and then
Yeah.
you would be comfortable. Because they told that guy like, what can we do to make you stay?
I've seen them do that before quite a
Mhm.
few times.
Yeah.
Um,
So they would situate you, and then from there, just straight to a rehab. That way you could eat, rest, shower, get stronger. You'd feel good.
and that's necessary.
Yeah.
It's hard out here to be tired and not have anywhere to lay down.
Mm-hmm.
You know.
Yeah.
This is the first time I've laid down in a minute, in a
It's
while.
nap time. Huh?
It's very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. The breeze is really cool and
Yep.
nice. The smells very earthy. It's beautiful. I've been missing all of it.
Yeah.
All the good things in life I covered up and killed them. It's like I'm very sad to say that I did that and let it happen. And it took this long to pull out of it, to snap out
Mm.
of it.
So yeah, I just wanted to make sure we addressed that question for. It's a viewer that always comments on your videos. He's like, try asking Zach this, see if it gets through to him,
Yeah.
or see what he says.
I would also tell myself don't be afraid to seek and take the help that's offered.
Yeah.
Nothing ventured, nothing gained. If you don't try it, how you know it don't work? If you ain't gonna like it.
That'd be a good title for the video. Nothing ventured, nothing gained.
Yeah.
That's a solid
Yeah, exactly.
statement.
And that's I tell people, the one thing's for sure: if we don't do nothing, the one thing that's for sure is gonna happen is nothing.
Nothing
You know?
changes if nothing changes.
Yeah, exactly. And it's man, oh my.
So I guess we'll wrap this one up. That was a good.
Yeah, before I fall asleep here.
Yeah. Any final words? Anything?
I just want to thank everybody, everybody that's rooting for me and stuff. Thank you. I feel the positive energy. I do. I feel it. It's with me. I'm taking it in, and it's slowly doing its thing. So
Yeah. Right
I'm
on.
glad that I'm here, and I'm glad I'm taking these steps. I'm glad I am. Thanks, people.
All right, guys. Thanks for watching.
Peace.